How's it going, guys? It's Poetry Son, and welcome to a bit of a different video than what I normally do. We're going to be talking today about the new game that has been announced by Paradox. It's called Imperator Rome. I'm not even sure I'm saying that right. I mean, I know Spanish and I know a little bit of Italian, but I don't know Latin, so I don't know if it's an Imperator or whatever, but it's Imperator Rome. And it's the newest game that was announced at Paradox Con, coming from Paradox Development Studios. They announced some other games that are made by their companies that they publish, but this is the new grand strategy game, and that's what I'm into. That's the thing I'm interested in, so that's what I'm really worried about. We have some EU4 music in the background, whatever. I just wanted something so that it's not just me talking. Oh god, that's loud. Hold on. Give me 1 second. I know I'm so unprofessional. Still, I want to just say right off the bat, this is not a... I'm not the person that has the most information on this game. In fact, there are other people online who I'm pretty sure have been keeping up with, like, who went to Paradox Con and maybe talked to Johan and others who who probably do have more information than me. So do not think that I am the expert on this. I am not. I am merely giving my opinions on things and what I look forward to, what I hope to see, what I'm excited for, that sort of thing. So please, if I say something that's incorrect and you know better, put that in the comments, correct me, but please don't hold it against me. Anywho, we're going to go ahead and jump right in. So as you can see, I have this screenshot up on screen right now because I think that it's the best or the most exciting one, rather, in my opinion. This is, we're going to be talking about 3 screenshots in particular. They actually have posted like 5 and possibly more other places, but there is this one and then this one. Let me make sure that's working on screen. I'm using just Adobe Acrobat to look at these. And this one. These are the 3 I'm going to talk about. But for right now, for most of it, I'm going to be on this screen. Because this screenshot, when I saw it, I was like, whoa, this looks pretty interesting. So yeah, we're gonna just dive right in and start talking about it. But again, give me that grain of salt. Take it with a grain of salt. I'm not an expert. I don't know exactly what's gonna happen. First off, one thing we can notice actually from all 3 of these screenshots is that the start date, presumably, is probably going to be 450. All of the screenshots, including in the other 2 that I'm not really looking at, all the screenshots are 450. Are in 450 BC, obviously, and so we can tell from that the start date will probably be in 450 BC, which is early Republic, and still in the time of like the Greek city-states being influential and Carthage just coming into power, that sort of thing. I'm not actually an expert on ancient history, on the antiquity era, and so if I'm wrong about this, please correct me, but I'm pretty sure that this is like the end of the Greek, like Alexander the Great's time period. That thing was, I believe Alexander the Great was like in the 470s or something like that. I don't know. I'm actually, I'll just look it up real quick. We'll look it up right now. This isn't supposed to be a super like short and precise video. Oh, it was later on. It was actually 356. Really? So this is before Alexander the Great. I stand corrected. I thought it was in the 400s. But no, I guess like the Peloponnesian War was in the 400s, wasn't it? Something like that. Okay, so it's actually before Alexander the Great. You can see Macedonia is actually pretty big. So that's kind of exciting. Rome is pretty small. Etruria, the Etruscans, are basically the same size as Rome. Carthage is pretty powerful. And in general, I think that I'm really... this map really made me excited, and the reason why is mostly just because of the fact that it's so detailed. Like, look at how much there is on this map. There's a ton. For instance, let's we can zoom in here. The resolution is obviously not the best. I pretty much downloaded this from the Steam page and everything. I'm sure they'll have more high-res stuff. So you can't even read the stuff on here. But look at how many... in this just chunk here, this is like Galicia and northern Portugal. In this one tiny area in Galicia, there is about 20 different political entities. That's crazy. Along the Levant area of Spain, the east coast of Spain, there's, 10 or so, each of which look pretty interesting and... down here in the south along the coast of Spain and Portugal, there's more. In Mauritania, Carthage has different exclaves everywhere, which I believe is pretty true to form, true to what actually happened. And then look at freaking Greece over here. Look at the, let me look at it here. So look at the Greek. Can you see that? You can see that. I don't want to zoom any further because it starts to look real bad with the text, but you can see there are, on the Peloponnesian Peninsula, there's about 15 different entities. Crete is split up into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different entities. Macedonia obviously dominates this area, but there's a ton of these little entities. Then the islands are all different things. There's Rhodes and Naxos, or whatever the other ones are called. The Balkans up here all split up into more medium-sized entities, but still. And same with Italy. Look at this. There's like all these tiny ones down here, medium ones along here. Some of them are long and skinny and small. Some of them are big and wide. I like how one is just called Boy. That's kind of nice. And then, of course, up here, up into like northern Italy and southern France into Gaul, it's pretty much all these different size entities all over the place, and I really like this. I think that one thing I'm going to compare this to, and people might be angry, but I think it's an apt comparison to say, in some manners at least, is one thing that I think I'm much more excited for about this game that it'll do better, is the detail, the level of detail. And the game I'm going to compare it to is the only other really like Roman focused game that I played recently in the past 5 years, which is Total War Rome 2. Total War Rome 2 is a fine game for the tactical gameplay. However, one thing I always hated about Total War Rome 2 is that the strategic layer over the top, I felt was bland. I felt it was lacking. I felt it was way too abstracted. There was something like, there was different states and whatever, but all of France was turned into maybe, I think, like 5 or 6 states with only 3 cities in each, roughly. Whereas this one has probably, I don't know, maybe 100. Now, we can see when we go down to the province screen, let me change. I think I have a highlighter here. Yeah, you can see there's a settlement there, settlement there, settlement there, settlement there, another one there, another one there, another one there, another one there. I think there's one under here. Can't see. Probably one up here. I don't know like where the troops are standing, if they're standing on top of settlements of their own as well or not. But you can see how there's just in this one cross-section chunk of Rome, between Rome and Naples, Italy rather, is the region, but in between Rome and Naples and around it, there are, there's about 10 different little settlements, little cities, which I believe represent provinces. You can see, actually, the border here. This is the province of Neapolis, or Naples, That's a small province. Multiply that across the whole map, and you're going to have a bunch of stuff. Going back to here, again, looking at that, that represents like this area right here. This whole area, there's maybe 10. So imagine all of France, there's gonna be 100. Look at, I'm assuming with the ones in Galicia that we were looking at, probably each of those is 1 or 2 settlements. Imagine how many they're gonna be, because I don't actually know exactly how it's gonna work out, but I'm super, super, super excited for the level of detail that is going to be involved here. So real quick, I'm gonna go ahead and actually open up the website. I had it open. I don't know where it went. Let's go to the game website, or rather to Paradox Plaza, because you can actually see they have a description of what the main features are. And I think that's always fun to look at how they describe their games, and whether or not we agree with it once it comes out. But let's go and take a look here. I'm not going to put it up on screen. However, I will include a link below in the description. It is paradoxplaza.com/imperator-Rome. I don't know if that'll bring it up, but I'll include the full link below. And if you scroll down on that page, they have a main features list. The trailer video was actually a little disappointing. It was just a bunch of statues, whatever. But I'm assuming it's pretty early on in development. They probably didn't want to show off a product that's not going to look anything like the last one. And that's actually something I will say, is that while some of the screenshots look pretty good, like for instance this one looks really good actually. Like the graphics look really good. Some of the stuff like this box here kind of looks a little outdated. Again, I'm pretty sure this is just stand-in art or basic art that they're going to flesh out. And some of the icons, like, it definitely looks like a step back from U4. But I'm assuming they're going to work on that. So let's go back over to the overview map so we can bask in its glory while I read off from this thing. I'm not going to read through everything. So the main points they have are character management, diverse populations, battle tactics, military traditions, different government types, barbarians and rebellions, trade, and provincial improvement. So let's talk about this point by point. So character management. This is pretty simple. I don't think there's much to be said about this. I knew that if they did a Rome game, I think everyone knew this, that if they did a Rome game, it would have to include almost a CK component, like a Crusader Kings personality and traits and characters component. And it literally says a living world of characters with varying skills and traits that will change over time. And I think that's really cool. I think that's perfect. I think you kind of need that for something in the Roman era where it's really focused on these figures like Julius Caesar and like Pompey and Alexander the Great. I think and Hannibal. I think it's really important to have the personality show. And I think that'll be cool. I don't think Paradox will have any problem doing this. They have experience. Johan has worked, I believe he worked on CK2 and was maybe even the lead designer for a while. So I trust Johan to be able to do that, and the team in general to be able to do that well enough and show this off. They already have experience doing this with CK2 and CK1, I guess. So I think that's pretty simple. I think it's pretty much necessary, and I think it'll be good. I'm going to skip over diverse populations for now. We'll come back to that. Battle tactics and military traditions, and they put these separate, which makes me think that they're really going to focus on the military aspect of this game and make it very deep. And that's one thing I am really excited for, actually. That's one of the things I'm probably most excited for, just from the very basic preliminary information we have right now, is the fact that it really seems like they are focusing on military stuff being deep and complex and satisfying. For battle tactics, they say, choose your approach before battle to counter the stratagems of your foes. One thing about EU4, and actually there's a combat screen here, so let's go look at this. One thing about EU4 that I've always been a little disappointed by, just a little bit. I don't think it's necessarily in the focus of the game, so I'm not too mad. But one thing about EU4 is that it doesn't necessarily have super complex combat. There's 3 types of units. Most of what you change is your proportions of them, and through your ideas, how good specific parts of them are. That's kind of basic. I think it's good enough for what the game is. It's not focused on looking at each battle. In most contexts, you're going to be doing multiple battles in a war. However, in a game like Rome, I think, Imperator Rome, I think that your troop composition and the tactics you actually use should be a much larger focus of the game. And it seems like that is exactly what it is going to be for them. Because look at this screenshot. You can see in the screenshot, there's archers here. There's like cavalry. Actually, it looks like maybe heavy cavalry and then light cavalry. Heavy infantry with swords, and then like spear or pike infantry. Like, there's different, already at least 5 different types of infantry. I'm assuming there's probably even more. There's probably going to be like war elephants and stuff. And again, that is one thing I do think I would like to see from a game like Total War Rome 2. If they take some inspiration from that in this regard, I think it'd be perfect. Having different troop types that interact different ways, and you have to have a balanced army, or at least you benefit from having it. Or maybe focusing on like phalanxes and just going all out on that could be fun. Or all war elephants, you know. But having those options and having the ability to, focus your army in different ways based on what enemies you're fighting and where you are in the world, that is something I'm super, super excited for. Beyond that, they also say in the next point, military traditions, they say each culture has a unique way of waging war. Romans and Celts have different options available to them. Unlock unique bonuses, abilities, and units. So units, again, like phalanxes for the Greeks, I'm assuming, or the Macedons, or the Spartans, maybe. War elephants for the Carthaginians and the people out in India and stuff, and in Africa. And other abilities, like I'm assuming the British might have like the chariot warriors and stuff, and the Egyptians with chariots. Bonuses and abilities, I'm assuming, are just going to be like national ideas in EU4, except focused, of course, on military tradition. But the fact that each culture has this unique way of waging war is something that I don't think EU4 models as well. Obviously, there's like cavalry ratio, but that's extremely minor. But having different whole units, different these big different things that can really affect things. I would love to see, I'm super excited to see, going back to here, seeing how the people of Galicia, the Celts of Galicia, the Celtic peoples of northern Spain, will fight versus the people of like southeastern Spain down here, who will probably be more naval focused, and the people of Carthage, you know, the people of northern Italy, the Lombards. I think that'll be super, super cool to see how they are all different in these different ways. And the culture it does seem like they're focusing on culture, which we'll get to in a little bit with the pops. Different government types. That's another thing. I think that's it. To me, looking at this map, it seems like there must be pretty varied government types to be able to have out in the northern part of the map all these medium-sized entities that are probably like you know, strong tribal governments, versus in Galicia all these fractured different like groups of peoples, and in Greece the city-states being able to hold these small countries and not get them all gobbled up. Maybe they will all get gobbled up, who knows. But to be able to even have that exist, you have to have these different government types, I think, as opposed to Carthage, which is a huge kingdom, being able to administer all that. I think it'll be super interesting to see how are they going to administer this. How are they going to have different governments be represented? And I'm really excited to see. There will probably be a ton of different government types, and that's cool. Barbarians and rebellions, I don't think there's too much to be said about that. It'll probably just be like similar to EU4 or CK2 with like raiding types of governments, like nomads and stuff. I think that'll be super cool. I don't think there's much to be said. It'll be interesting to see. Is it going to be like rebels in EU4, more like nomads in CK2, or raiders? Either way, should be interesting. And rebellions too was a huge thing during this time period. What was it, you know, like Spartacus or whatever, and plenty of other rebellions, civil wars. That should be cool. Again, almost like a mixture of CK2 and EU4 mechanics. Trade, always super fun for me. I don't think a lot of people care about it, especially in like CK2. It's not very important. Hearts Iron 4, not very important. I really love trade in EU4. I think most people are like, oh my god, it's just spreadsheets. I don't look at it like that. I'm like, oh, you just look at this, and then you can, you know, buff this and then send this to here. It's like a flow chart for me, not a spreadsheet. And I really like the trade in EU4. So if they take some inspiration from that, and also, again, I actually think that's one area that Total War Rome 2 does decent, but maybe not great, is having different goods actually have an impact on what happens. Like, for instance, places that will have, you know, maybe places that have iron and stuff and ores. In EU4, that's kind of representative as in a decent way. The production values and the trade you get from that is represented, but it's not super impactful. But I'm hoping in this game they almost take a more Civ approach, where it's like having iron can be really, really useful because other people will want it, and you can really choose what you trade it for. And they do say you can like stockpile it for local strength, or, you know, trade excess goods. So I'm really hoping you can take it in any direction you want and become a big trade power and like trade to everyone and be a Mediterranean trade power. Or you can, hopefully you can just be like conquering the resources for yourself and then only trade certain things. I'm super excited to see how that'll go. Super excited to see how these goods trading with people and making trade agreements and political matters, for that matter, will affect the trade and how they'll represent that. Will it be nodes like EU4? Will you actually have to set up trade routes like in Civ? I wouldn't actually mind that for a game like this. We'll see. And last, before we go back to the pops, is provincial improvements. And they say invest in buildings, roads, and defenses to make your kingdom stronger and richer. This is another thing that I am thinking is going to be super interesting. Let's go back to this screen for that. Obviously, I have scribbled all over this. That's okay. Let's go look in here. So you can see that there is along here. There is the. Oh, that's not what I want. Hold on. There's this road that goes along here. I'm assuming. Obviously, the road doesn't even go to Naples itself. It goes to somewhere else. There's lots of places that are missing roads. I'm assuming that these roads are going to be things you have to build. You have to decide, do you want to build a road from here to here? And actually, let's zoom out a little bit. We can probably get some more information, glean some information from this about both this and the trade. You can see, I'm not going to spend too much time dissecting every single icon, every single number on the screen, and every symbol up here. I think other people will do a better job of that than me. There's other smarter people who can do that. However, I'm just going to look at the big picture and look at this. You can see city buildings. Looks like it's a system almost like EU4 or CK2. You probably have specific buildings you upgrade and build up and get bonuses out of, like, I don't know, this looks like it might be a barracks. This looks like maybe a defense, like a wall. Trade, like market area, maybe a granary, can't really tell. Still, you can definitely tell that there's this infrastructural aspect, which most Paradox games actually have, and I think that's a really cool thing in all the games. You can see the goods up here that we were talking about before, which is really important. But I also think that there's probably going to be this outside exterior infrastructure component, like building up your forts in specific areas that you think might be attacked, building up roads within your kingdom. That's not something you have to do in EU4 or CK2. Hearts of Iron 4 kind of represents it with like infrastructure. You increase your or decrease your travel time. But I think in Rome, it's a really big thing. The Romans are like pretty much, you know, one of the things they're famous for is building roads between places. You can go to places like in Spain, not even in Italy. You can go to places in Spain, lots of the roads and the highways, especially in the East Coast, that are there. The place I was in Spain, actually, last semester, one of the main highways there, I actually looked it up, the main highway there is literally built on top of an ancient Roman highway. Obviously, it's in a little bit of a different position, and it's shifted over time, but it's the effects of the Romans building roads and creating settlements along those roads can still be felt today. So it's pretty important to have that in the game, and I think that is something they're going to be focusing on. The buildings in the cities, the roads outside the cities, between your cities, in your empire, and the defenses. I'm not sure if defenses is just going to be in cities or maybe have actual like fortresses that the Romans did set up. Lots of times they set up forts and border walls that then had cities spring up along them. That'll be really cool to see. And again, I'm going to take a second to stop here for a second and say, you know, I'm sorry if I'm blabbering on about stuff that you're not interested in. This is just how I'm doing. I'm just flowing from point to point as I think is interesting. If you guys don't agree with me, if you guys think other stuff is what you really want to focus on, the nitty-gritty of what these numbers might mean up here, I'm not really going to focus on that. That's for a different video. And I do plan on making more videos about this. So with that being said, let's get back to the... we'll stay on the screen for now. Let's get back to the big thing that everyone is talking about, you know, that all the Vicky fans are into, is the idea of POPs and populations. Well, that's what POP stands for. So the point I skipped earlier in the main features list is diverse populations. I'm going to read the whole thing. Citizens, freemen, tribesmen, and slaves, each population with its own culture and religion. Whether they fill your armies, fill your coffers, or fill your colonies, keep an eye on their happiness. Your success depends on their satisfaction. So there's a few things to get from this. So first off, colonies, the idea of colonizing stuff, is a thing that certainly, when we think of colonization in most Western societies, when we are taught about colonization, we think about colonization, at least in the US. Most of the time we think of, like, you know, the Puritans coming from England and settling the eastern coast of America, stuff like that, and the Spanish colonizing the Americas. However, colonization in this time period certainly happened. In fact, some of my favorite little facets of history are learning about Greek colonization. The Greek literally, they were masters of the sea as well as of land combat, you know. So they sent lots of boats all over the place. In fact, I believe all of the like Black Sea coast, or most of it, was settled by the Greek. That was like one of their breadbasket areas that sent grain all the way down to Greece, to the cities of Athens and Thebes, to supply the growing populations. They did the same in Sicily. Sicily was originally, well, I think there were people there before, but it was really settled by the Greeks, and Syracuse, for instance, was settled by the Greeks and turned into this Greek place. And even, I think, until the Middle Ages, the early Middle Ages, lots of the people in southern Italy and Sicily spoke Greek. I think even today there's like a couple towns that still speak like Greek, and like Albania, I think, which was also, there's always been a lot of movement. But still, it just shows that they want to represent this colonial aspect of the ancient era, which we don't always think about. I'm also assuming, or at least hoping, that that means we will see that with this area of Iberia, this area in here, this big central chunk. I'm hoping that that's not just empty. I'm assuming some parts of the game will just be empty wasteland, like in the desert, the Sahara Desert. But I'm really hoping that with Iberia, there's this big empty chunk, and I'm really hoping that they represent that as terra incognita that you can like explore and colonize and send your settlers into, and not just empty. I really hope that, because definitely the Carthaginians and the Romans both fought for control over areas up in there. And they had different areas that they settled and also like worked with the local peoples to subjugate or vassalize or whatever. In fact, the Greeks also even came to Spain. There's the settlement of Imperius, which is a city today, or a small town today in Catalonia, that was originally settled by the Greeks. The Greeks had a trading settlement in Imperius. They also had Marseille, you know, it was Massilia or whatever back then, but the Greeks settled in southern France and even in Iberia a little bit. The Carthaginians settled in Cartagena, modern day Cartagena over here, made a new city that still has the name of Carthage written on it today. The Greeks with Tarragona originally, and then everything else. They did settle to a certain extent and assimilate the local populations in ways that I'm really excited for. Beyond that, just thinking about the way in which population is represented with pops, the idea that there will be different cultures and religions and different types of pops, citizens, freemen, tribesmen, and slaves. I'm super excited to see how this goes. I'm not sure if it's going to be along the style, and I think there has been more information about this, I just haven't looked at it. I'm not sure if it's going to be along the style of Stellaris with like tiles and more abstracted, or Vicky. I personally, I'm not actually sure. I don't think that a level of abstraction would be bad for it, because if they try to represent it super realistically, we don't necessarily have too much information about the population numbers for like the people up here in like the Pictone area, controlled area. We don't have a necessarily ton of information like censuses from each of these little entities, so I don't think that we should necessarily expect super detailed approaches. I don't think that would necessarily be great, but I don't want it to be too abstracted. I do think there should be some level of like you should be able to tell how much of a certain pop type there is, and the pop should be able to change to other types. Like each pop in Vicky 2, each pop has its own culture and its own religion. Those don't always have to be the same. You can have people that might be I mean, like let's see, what's a good example? Like there's different types of Jewish people in Vicky 2. There's the Ashkenazi Jews and the Sephardic Jews. There are two different types, you know, they're different cultures. Different culture represents kind of like ethnicity or language, roughly, in all the games, the Paradox games. But they have the same religion, and sometimes you'll have pops of different religion but the same culture. Obviously, like trying to think of a good example. Like there could be Latin people maybe that are, or let's see, Carthaginian people that might be in here, in this area in Sicily, or they might be Hellenic religion. They might follow the Greek religion. Or in Carthage, they might follow the Carthaginian religion, which I don't know much about, actually. Still, or in Egypt, you know, once Alexander comes through, which I'm assuming is modeled in the game, sort of like the Black Death or the Mongols in CK2. In Egypt, once Alexander conquers it, maybe it'll be like part of the people there will still be worshiping the Egyptian gods. Some of them might convert to Hellenic religion, and that would be super interesting to see. I don't think they did say that the religion shouldn't be the main focus of the game, but it will be a thing. But however, the like it says in the screen on the page, whatever the case may be, keep an eye on their happiness. Your success depends on their satisfaction. So in any case, you kind of have to be figuring out, am I going to be tolerant? Am I going to try to assimilate them or try to get rid of these other pops? Am I going to try to settle these areas with my own and outnumber them so that my people are all happy with my policies? Or am I going to be tolerant like the Romans, let people from different places be citizens or at least have rights, you know? And that should be super interesting to see how that's modeled, especially with different governments. I'm really excited to see this game. And I don't want to take too much time. We're going to wrap it up now. This has been a 30-minute video. Went on a lot longer than I had thought, but that's completely fine. I had gone into this with the idea being that it would just be about like talking about stuff, you know? So I guess one thing I haven't mentioned is, like, you can see in all the screenshots, the mini-map. Mini-map goes freaking all the way out to India. That's pretty awesome. That is really cool. I'm assuming that means you can try to play like as Alexander the Great and try to do what he couldn't. And that's one thing that, beyond just the fact that the map is so big, is quite clear, is that they want to focus on the what ifs in this game. That's always the case in EU4 and CK2, but in this game in particular, I think they are purposely starting the game early enough that it really does become a focus on you can play any particular like culture, you can play as a political entity from any culture, any religion, any part of the world, and really make them a power, or try to, and see what can you change about the way history go. And that's like, it's really reminds you of EU4 in that aspect. I'm assuming there's going to be a lot of stuff that's sort of hard-coded to happen, or not hard-coded, but railroaded a little bit, like Macedonia becoming a power with Alexander the Great, Carthage and Rome fighting each other, Rome becoming a power and beating up the Etruscans and their former overlords, Egypt and stuff happening there. I'm really excited to see what will all happen there. But it should be really fun. I think the fact that they start in 450, and I believe it has been confirmed that it goes about till the fall of the Republic, so 44 or so BC. It's a 400-year span of history, which is about the same as EU4 and CK2 base game. So I think it's supposed to represent those. It's not supposed to be a super big departure from those types of games. It's supposed to be a focus, just in a different time period, on making your own history, figuring out what you want to happen and making your own history happen. Or playing one of the big countries and doing a historical game. And there should be a lot of cool stuff. And with that, and with the level of detail that we see on this map, I think this game is going to be extremely replayable. I don't know how much, but I think it might be even more replayable than CK2 or U4. And I know I've said that maybe about Hearts of Iron and Stellaris in the past, but I really mean it for this game. I love like Roman history. I want to learn more about this time period. And I think this game will really scratch an itch for me. I'm really excited to play it. And I think it should be really, really fun to try out when we get closer and see more information about it. See how replayable it will really be. Because if you want to play every single one of these countries, or at least play like one from every different significant culture or everything, like play an early pre-Catalan thing in Iberia, or play a Celtic person up in northern Spain when there were Celts back then, or play Carthage, or play one of these other minors next to Rome, or play one of the Germanic tribes, or play a Balkan tribe. There's hundreds of options. I'm really the Greek city-states, Egypt, tons, Ethiopia. Obviously, I keep just naming them, but there's so many options. I really, really am excited to play this. I'm really excited to see how replayable it will be, how complex and how much depth it'll have. And I think, in any case, I have faith in Paradox that it'll be interesting. Maybe it won't be that replayable. Maybe that's just me hoping it will be. But even if it isn't that replayable, I think it'll still be really fun to play and really interesting. Not to mention, I think it'll look good. I think the building aspect will be really interesting, and I think it'll have a lot of things that none of the other Paradox games necessarily have, just like the building up your settlements actually from scratch a lot of the time, settling new things in that regard in an ancient context, not in a early modern one. I'm really excited. Anyways, there's a lot more to be said about this. I will do more videos like this probably as more information becomes available. So, With that being said, thank you for watching. I'm really excited to see what your thoughts are. I'll probably do a more concise, more focused video on specific features in the future as we get more information. Either way, thank you so much for watching. Please leave a like and subscribe for more if you want to see more. If you want to watch my EU4 series I have going on, I currently have an Albania one and a Republican Spain game in Hearts of Iron 4, and I'm really proud of both of those. Please check them out if you want to. If not, thanks for watching. Share me your thoughts in the comments below, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.